I'm the owner, CEO of a materials testing and inspection firm. Started it back in 2016. And this year, we have just over 20 employees, and we're on track to end up right at $4 million.
Good for you. Well done.
With a 25% bottom line on that, which is awesome.
Wow, that's amazing. Good for you. Cool.
My question is, how do we more accurately plan and forecast for the upcoming season and year?
Well, I mean, I think it's obvious that generally forecasting is based on the last few years as a trend line, right? And so if we go back, what did you do in 2022, 2021, 2020 might be weird, but what's your trend line on that, and what information can you gather from that informs 2020, that informs this year, right? And so we're always doing that. And so your next year is always like the year before, plus or minus the things that we are that are given. I mean, we know we've got increasing cost, or we know we've got this customer is going away, or we know we've got a new customer coming online that we didn't have last year, so we can add that to the forecast. And so whatever's different, but you take last year's your baseline, and then whatever differences there are, we add and subtract those to try to come up with this coming year. And the longer you've been in business, the more accurate you'll be able to forecast. The longer you've had that product line or that service, the more accurate you'll be able to forecast. The first year you're doing it, your forecast is a guess. It's not even an estimate. It's just a guess. It's based on numbers, but I guess we're going to sell this many units for this much revenue, and I guess we're going to have these expenses. But you're forecasting your first 2 years should be the most inaccurate of your entire business career. After that, it should get better and better and better. But you're probably already doing all of those things, aren't you?
Yes, but my issue comes up so last year we did 1.6.
Whoa!
And then we jumped, yeah.
So what caused it to more than double?
Well, that's kind of the part of my issue is that we are, so working in construction, right? I say that we're akin to a trade, but we work more on the engineering side.
Yeah.
But we're the last thought on whether it's a contractor hiring us or an owner developer. We're the last thought. Like I've had times they're breaking ground and then they call us, "Hey, we got this project for you," and it turns into much bigger than we ever anticipated. But I've also contacted some of our larger clients that are year after year, and I'm like, "Hey, what do you got coming up?" And there's crickets because of their internal lack of communication. And so that's where I'm just trying to get better ideas of how to communicate with some of these clients of ours so that we can...
Out of $4 million, how many clients are you running?
60 to 80 a month. We had a month where we were on 100 different projects.
Okay. Well, that's a pipeline that you ought to be able to say, okay, what did I do to get 60 in the pipeline versus 30 in the pipeline? That's not based on their whim. You've done something that's caused you to get 30 2 years ago you had 30 and now you got 60, right?
Yeah.
If it was 3, I could see the volatility because it would just, it's on their whim and crap. I don't know what that one's going to do, and that's 1/3 of the forecast, right? That makes it inaccurate. It's very difficult to put pen to paper on that one. But where you're going from 30 to 60 or 30 to 70, you're doing something there. That's different projects, different customers, right?
Some of it is, yes. And honestly, we don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth, and which is amazing. And it does speak, and I do understand that speaks volumes.
How wide is your geography footprint? How far out are you going from Pocatello?
We'll travel about 2 hours any direction. Sometimes more, just depending.
Okay. What's this market cap out at for you?
Ooh, that I don't know, because right now we've got a lot of heavy highway projects from the infrastructure bill that are happening and will continue for the next couple of years. But we've had just a lot of developers and development here in East Idaho happening. And, I know some of my competition in the area, we've now kind of exceeded some of their offices, but I also think they're probably at the $6 to $8 million range.
Mm-hmm. So the idea that you could, you've been taking some of their business here and there, you would end up taking more of it, then there's plenty of market cap. I mean, you could take this to 20 million hypothetically and not ever leave your geographical footprint, right?
I wouldn't say quite that much, but there can be, we could probably 3 to 4x what we're at now with additional.
4 would be 16. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
All right. That makes sense. Well, I think what we've got to determine is where the customer base is coming from, and can we predict that is replicatable? Can I continue that, or am I just totally going to be guessing for the rest of my life? I don't like guessing. That scares me. That's not forecasting. So, but basically, we've got to say this revenue stream, what have we got to do to feel good that when we say 5, it's going to be 5? And that represents 100 clients a month, and we know what it takes to get a client in the pipeline, and we've got a staff to make sure that happens, and we've got to put resources and technology and marketing dollars or whatever to make sure that happens. And but if you're, I think you've got to get under the hood here and not just say, okay, these clients are just generally, they're just walking in, they're staggering in and dying in our lobby. We didn't kill anything. No, you need to figure out how this is occurring so that it's predictable, replicatable, sustainable. And then you've got a forecastable model. But where you don't have the sense that you're controlling or contributing to the creation of a client directly, then it makes it very, very hard to forecast and very hard to do that. So I think you need to get under the hood and figure out where these clients are coming from, and then that'll help you lay your revenue model out. And of course, you can back into expenses after you lay your revenue model out. But I think you're doing something more than you realize you're doing. That the organization is doing something to put these things in half. What are the, maybe you're going to need to go back and survey. If you're doing 30 to 100 a month, or if you're doing 70 a month, you need to go back and survey, a couple of hundred of these people and say, okay, how did you choose us? What was the process? How long is the pipeline? Where'd you hear about us? What was the brand differentiation? What was the value proposition? Why'd you choose us? In other words, and how did you hear about us? And then, you start to put together a marketing plan based on that, because then your customer starts to have a persona. They start to be our general customer comes to us this way. It takes 5 months to develop them from initial contact. And then I've got a predictable environment that I can create a forecast out of. And, that's going to be the route I go if I'm in your situation. You just got to get under the hood and figure out where the money's coming from and create a predictable model. And then you can forecast accurately. But it's worth doing, because it's going to drive you nuts otherwise. Because you're going to feel like you're at the whim of the wind blowing, and that'll drive you bananas.